eyelids getting heavier and heavier. She shook her head to the sides to snap out of it, but her own head would only keep getting heavier and soon plopped forward. Her nose touched the old Empyrean text before her, reeking of moisty mold and receiving her with a warm embrace. Sleepier and sleepier. But she couldn't give up. To go to the place beyond the mist and to meet a promised friend, Becky had to snap out of it.
Darn it! The great Becky orders you. Stay open, eyes. Please.
Cried Becky in a small laboratory of the Herring Archipelago. Like holding up heavy boulders, the little girl struggled with all her strength to keep both eyelids open. It was then that a familiar phrase came into her eyes.
Landkeeper? Huh? Landkeeper?
She had heard of it somewhere. But where and when? She fell into a deep thought. And then her mind recalled a small cogwheel. A small cogwheel that spun round and round on a tiny hand.
People from my homeland? What about them?
Said the memory librarian, tossing the cogwheel in his hand into the air and grasping it in his palm. Becky wanted to know, was he not lonely, alone for all that time in the library of memories, just as she believed Luke's happiness as her own happiness? Wasn't the floaty kid giving up his own happiness for someone else's? But she did not want to judge rashly. She did not want to think, I was like that, so he should be as well.
I thought you might think of them when you're alone here. Aren't you lonely?
Well, not really. Not now, at least.
Now? What's that supposed to mean?
The same as you. You've all come to see me. I just want everyone to walk on that correct path through the memories.
What about you?
What?
What do you want to do?
Me?
The memory librarian and Becky merely stared at each other for a moment. He seemed puzzled at a question that he had never heard of in his entire life, and Becky seemed worried that the floaty boy wasn't considering himself happy.
It's all right. This is the happiness that I believe in.
He continued with a smile, as though he was trying to cheer her up.
This is something I decided for myself, for my own happiness. A bit selfish too.
Selfish how?
I want people to live, even if their current lives aren't very happy, even if they're tired and sad.
Becky tried to understand the floaty boy. She thought back to the days when she believed herself to be useless, when she wanted to disappear from this world. But then she met the adventurers, and even had her revenge against that mean scientist on this journey. She was happy. Happiness that she never would have gotten if she had given up then. Was what the floaty boy wanted to protect for so many people such moments?
Then you live too.
Huh?
You live your own time to the fullest too. This is life advice from the great Becky.
The memory librarian hesitated. He seemed to have much to think about. Then, as though he had regained certainty, continued.
I'm going to live for a long, long time as a memory. Maybe even forever. You'll remember me too, right?
What? That's so weird. Forgetting an arrogant kid like you won't be easy.
Remember me, it's a promise.
Are you trying to order me around?
If only we had a landkeeper to declare our promise.
Landkeeper? Promise? Don't you just make promises?
Where I'm from, we promise before a landkeeper. You don't have to keep it, but we declare it so we can record our desires to keep that promise.
That's stupid. I think it's better to not say it at all if you can't keep it.
Well, so is it a promise?
I'm going back to work.
Becky turned away from the memory librarian and ran towards Varheit.
Promise my butt.
She thought back to the castle of the dead. Her dear friends in her memories seemed to be greeting her. She closed her eyes. The wind blew through the calm echoes of the wave and brushed by her cheeks. She tried to imagine the world past the mist on the yonder, but she couldn't really come up with the specifics of the space. She took a look at Herman's perfect schematic again, one made by combining her own and Hiram's designs, but she still couldn't understand what he was thinking.
Was this really the only way, Herman?
She knew that facing a being like Bakal would need great strength, but the fact that Herman had always made his design with using Bakal's strength in mind was difficult for Michelle to swallow. And now, after all they've been through on the dimensional ship Varheit in the warped past and learning about Bakal's legacies, Herman's schematics were telling her yet another story.
Or there's no such thing as good and evil for energies. Is that what you're trying to say, Herman?
She swore in earnest that she would inherit Herman's will and finish what he had started. And she was the one who built Varheit with Bakal's legacy. But was it right for her as an Empyrean to use Bakal's powers to bring Herman's designs into fruition? Michelle could not get her thoughts straight. She wasn't doubting Herman's intentions. She just wanted to understand.
What are you doing here? Shouldn't you be working?
Michelle turned around at a voice from behind and saw Becky staring at her with contempt.
What? Didn't think you would come see me here. Did you start to miss me, Becky? Miss you my butt? I've been looking for you because I found something important. But you're just slacking off here. Important? Did something happen? Take a look at what the great Becky's found.
Becky haughtily showed the text in her hands to Michelle, as if she had made some groundbreaking discovery.
This right here. You know what this is?
Michelle looked into the text Becky showed her.
This is a lighthouse?
She snatched the text away from Becky's hands and began carefully reading through it.
A lighthouse? What are you talking about? What I wanted to show you was the land. The West. Fascinating. Good job, Becky. Huh? Of course. I'm the great Becky. Then let's go take a look into it back at the lab. I'm curious about something. About what? Can you live forever in memories too?
Becky's words brought back Herman's face into her thoughts. The memory of him, always lowering his body to stand eye to eye with her, was so vivid in her head. His eyes, his voice, his looks, everything about him so clear in her memories. But she could never look into his heart. She felt like she would only be able to properly see into him once she finished his plans. Now it was time for her to stand eye to eye with him. The thought gave her a sensation as though he was still alive.
That might be true. Really? If you just never forget.
Becky gazed into her face.
Are you crying? I'm just sleepy. I'm tired. Well, let's continue the search then. We should get going to Celeste. We would already be there if you weren't such a lazy bum. Alright, I'll get going then.
Becky, after merely staring at her with disbelief, began running after her too.
Wait up!
The amber moonlight illuminated their backs.